This year has been one traumatic event after another. America is in shambles. Unemployment and debt are skyrocketing. The only thing keeping things afloat now is all the money the government is pumping in. The economy has crossed the Rubicon. Debt is mathematically impossible to pay back. The common person is rightfully angry since we got played by the media and our institutions. Several hotspots around the world are poised for war. China and Russia are strong, and we are wounded and cornered. A black swan or some other catalyst will start the domino effect. It's just a matter of when, no longer if. U.S. current account deficit rises to more than 12-year high. The U.S. current account deficit surged to its highest level in more than 12 years in the third quarter as a record rebound in consumer spending pulled in imports, outpacing a recovery in exports. The U.S. now spends 100% more than it collects. The government is consuming the U.S. economy. It's called squeezing out. The Fed is the great enabler of the destruction of the currency and the theft from future generations. The federal government will be between 30 to 40 trillion in debt before this pandemic is sorted out. And the bailout of state pension funds will be even worse than predicted if the stock market goes south. By 2030, federal debt will be closing in on $50 trillion. Here comes money. Lots of it. Hyperinflation. This is the Yellen playbook. According to experts, Venezuela's economy began to experience hyperinflation during the first year of Nicolas Maduro's presidency. Potential causes of the hyperinflation include heavy money printing and deficit spending. Economies based on fiat currency and debt always fail. Always. America is literally running on fumes now. The residual wealth of we the people is reaching its end. Many of us have already seen what happens when the tank runs dry. I know two people that lost decent jobs, never received a dime of the unemployment money they were owed, and now live in a tent and a van, respectively. America's debt has soared past $27 trillion and is now expected to leap by several more by the end of the year. This debt surge would have been unimaginable just a year ago, and adding to our woes as the road ahead appears bleak. The clock provided by usdebtclock.org provides a great deal of insight and information. A seldom and underused feature appears on the right side of the top line. It is labeled Debt Clock Time Machine. It doesn't matter who's in office, the debt baseline has been in place for nearly 50 years now, since 1971. Deviate from the baseline, and 2008 happens. 1971 was the year an American president ended convertibility of U.S. paper money for gold at the U.S. Treasury. Since then, except for a brief period under a man named Paul Volcker, U.S. monetary policy has been a shit show. The U.S. dollar had lost 97% of its value since 1971 when monetary discipline ended. The U.S. dollar sinks under the Fed's pledge to keep rates low. The greenback has since March slumped 13% versus a basket of its peers. The US dollar on Thursday plunged to a more than 2.5-year low against a basket of its peers. The US dollar is headed to zero. Dow 50,000 and Nasdaq 25,000 is just around the corner. When Venezuela, Argentina, and Zimbabwe destroyed their currency, their stocks went to the moon. $100 trillion multiplied by zero equals zero. America is now in Zimbabwe territory. The dollar as we know it is on the way out. That's what this reset is all about. Currency all over the world is about to fail. Look at the dollar as it starts to fall. The federal banking system is failing. From a world reserve currency to a toilet paper. Bitcoin and gold are taking in place for now. This is the tip of the iceberg for so much of people getting fleeced of their hard-earned money by all sorts of people who only have their greedy paws out to mislead and outright swindle good people. America is dead now. This nation no longer has a functioning government or infrastructure. There are entirely too much poverty and homelessness. We produce nothing to save global misery and fiat. The rot from the inside is terminal, and the enemies we have made have long memories and stronger tactical positioning. Hypersonic nukes can be to your door faster than pizza delivery. Now, look at the economic and geopolitical status of the world. World War III will be staring back at you. The next few months will be record-setting for business closures and employment purges as everyone adjusts to the next administration and begun implementing national lockdowns, mandates, and taxes and regulations. The economy will take a turn for the worse when the next administration's disastrous economic and domestic policies take over. Their plan of higher taxes will not be good for the economy. Small businesses will not survive the winter shutdowns and the coming regulations. If you really like 2020, you're gonna absolutely love 2021. Welcome back to the Atlantis Report. You are here for your daily dose of the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Please take a second to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to also hit the notification bell. Many of you have asked me where they can buy silver and gold bullion. You will find in the description box the links where you can buy American Silver Eagle, silver bars, or rounds. I highly recommend that you start stacking some silver bullion for the future. A lot of the record receipts due to stock market capital gains taxes, due solely to the free stock market helicopter money from the Federal Reserve. What happens to government receipts when the helicopter money ends? Just one more reason we are going to see the biggest market and economic collapse in the history of the world either next year or 2022 at the latest. All I can say is, wait for it. The following are some of the reasons we are headed toward Great Depression 2.0. Temporary layoffs being replaced with permanent layoffs. Businesses who took the Payroll Protection Program loans, which will not have to pay the money back if they retain workers without laying anyone off, will then begin to lay off people after their obligations are met. Businesses that have, and will continue to be permanently closed, stimulus money drying up, exposing the scammers of the Paycheck Protection Program. End of eviction moratoriums. Unemployment money drying out. And the most important thing, the real panic that will result from when the secretive Federal Reserve has their cronies pull all that free money from the markets. The wealth effect will turn into a massive poverty effect. And you think the oil companies are hurting now? We ain't seen nothing yet. All that gas that will not be burned due to people not having jobs to drive to anymore. Spenders will become savers, slowing our economy even more. Or people simply will have no more money to spend, only credit that won't be repaid. If it weren't for free money from the Federal Reserve, the deficit would have been well over $4 to $5 trillion, instead of only $3.1 trillion. $3.1 trillion is horrific. Just one small problem. The national debt actually went up by $4.15 trillion. The budget deficit doesn't include off-budget spending, intra-government debt, etc. The national debt increased by $4.23 trillion in the fiscal year 2020. That's the number that matters. And zombie companies are loving it. And they want more debt, not less debt. Drug addicts want more drugs, that's the trouble with idiots. The Fed props the stock prices up with free money, the failing companies take advantage of these higher prices and issue new shares of stock at these newly inflated prices, and they can go on being zombies for a few months or years more since they now have more cash received by suckers, I mean investors. But when our new daddy, the Federal Reserve, takes away our corporate allowances, investors will be left holding a worthless bag of shares. Those stimulus packages seem to be stimulating only the wealthy and the deficit. 60 of America's top 500 companies paid no taxes during 2018. Amazon and Netflix should have paid a collective $16.4 billion in federal income taxes based on the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act's 21% corporate tax rate, but instead, these corporations received a net tax rebate of $4.3 billion. The helicopter money only hovers over Wall Street. Hence propping up retirement systems, insurance funds, social security nets. When this goes, there will mass pauperization, death of anyone who cannot support themselves. Overhauling the monetary system does not help one bit with the forced spending, being done to literally avoid a major social collapse. They are not printing because they want to, but rather because they have to. The Fed had no other real weapon to resolve the debt than inflation. Money printing is only ever a kick-the-can concept and all it has ever been, but it bided them time to position themselves economically. Now that time has been over for quite a while, and now the only way for the debt to be resolved, even flipping it to a digital system to lock you in and fleece you, is a large bout of inflation. They have to keep the debt in check, though, so no more money printing, and it is going to blow many people apart, just not them. And they are ready to print 2 more trillions. We are ready to have a record $5 trillion in the deficit just because of a pandemic. What we need is another stimulus package. That'll do the trick. They won't stop printing money until the monetary system is overhauled or collapses. This country is totally broke. That train destined for an economic wreck is accelerating into the crash. Carry on at this rate, by the end of next year, $40 trillion is on the cards. Make it $50 trillion if the Democrats win with their spending programs. Only a global economic reset will do now. We have surpassed the $25 trillion national deficit threshold, which economists stated decades earlier that if America crossed that line, our debt would be unrepayable. Notice that the graph of debt to GDP stops at 200% of GDP. Once you cross that barrier, you are screwed. No country in the history of man has crossed that line and not defaulted. Once you cross 150% of GDP, it's mighty hard to be prosperous and for the general standard of living to go up. If you count Social Security and other off-budget liabilities, we're well past 200%. More and more is diverted to support the debt, the liquidity trap. There is no way out of this. It's like a runaway the credit card. We need some kind of bankruptcy or just to leave. But where do we go? You can check out, but you can never leave. Hotel California, Hotel USA. It will require a global reset. Or a big asteroid. Or a big asteroid causing a global reset. You think the deficit is bad, now just wait until the Democrats are in office. Whoever gets in next has got to keep doubling down, that's the way a Ponzi scheme works. We the great unwashed left-right sheeple, will now sit transfixed, enthralled, as the two fair one parties battle over the heated debate on the size of the next stimulus package. You'll be surprised just how stupid the great unwashed are regarding the finances of the USA. They don't have a clue. The fact the USA is bankrupt beyond repair hasn't even dawned on them. They are completely oblivious because the power that be have them concentrating on the wrong issues as always. I.e., left versus right. You know the USA is finished when so-called conservatives have long ago abandoned fiscal responsibility. The dollar is dead, so you might as well go out with a bang. As an analogy, I see it as a man who is diagnosed as terminal, being offered an unsecured loan after loan by the bank. We are in the terminal phase. The casino obviously knows this, but the patrons drink and toss their chips. This was the Atlantis report. Please like, share, leave me a comment, subscribe. And please take some time to subscribe to my backup channels, I do upload videos there too. You'll find the links in the description box. You will also find a PayPal link if you want to make a donation. Thank you wholeheartedly to all those of you who have already donated. Stay safe and healthy, friends.